Guys, Whitney from the Holiday Homestead. Sorry, my seedling video got cut off again, but here we go. So we are planting an Amish paste tomato into the bed here. And you can look at my part 1 and 2 videos to see all about the composition of this bed. But what I'm doing here right now is getting this tomato that we just took out of this pot here, and we're putting it into the hole. Now, the best part about tomatoes is that you can cheat a little bit. If you have a leggy tomato that just seems a little too tall and stringy for its own good, you can make the hole a lot deeper, and you can plant that tomato further into the hole than you normally would. So see, it's pretty deep down there. And when I cover him up, I'm going to cover up some of that stem too, because you don't need a ton of stem. Now what's going to happen is the part of the stem that is buried is going to sprout new roots, and you will have a shorter plant, which is ultimately what you want, and you'll have a quicker root growth, because now instead of having just the amount of roots that was in the pot, now you'll have roots coming from the stem here out as well. So that really gives the plant a good anchor, and it really helps the plant to absorb nutrients better and just get a really good start. Now, one thing I'll also show you guys is what I do with extra seedlings. Now, this pot that I have here has 3 seedlings in it. I just took out 1. I'll probably plant 1 more out of here in my beds. But what I want to show you is the joy of extras. So I always have extra plants, always. It's just how it is. I always plant more than or sow more than I need in my pots. I always plant a minimum of 3 seeds per 32-ounce yogurt container that I use. And when I do this, what happens is I always have a few extra. And a lot of times people will throw away their extras. But I have discovered that when you have kind of a gardening community around you, people want to barter and trade plants. And when you have something to barter and trade, you usually end up with things that you really wanted, which is kind of cool. Several months ago, I bartered some cauliflower plants for some kale plants, a different variety of kale that I wanted. And, I wasn't able to get the seeds that year for that type of kale, but someone else had. And so I was able to barter something else I already had too much of for something else that I wanted. And the deal worked out for the lady as well. Everybody was happy. Everybody got new plants. So when you have extras in your seedling containers, do not throw them away. What I recommend is if you go to, you can always buy pots, sure. Anyone can buy pots, that's great. But if you're super cheap like I am, you can take your pots or get your pots from like a local nursery, Home Depot, any place that sells plants pretty much. Because a lot of times what they do is they have clearance items that get a tag or whatever. They're old, they're dead. This one I got for $1. $1. And it was a pretty big plant, but it had died. It just looked terrible. So they just wanted to get rid of it. So I buy the kind of discarded plants for 2 reasons. One is, I should say 3 reasons. 3 reasons. 3 reasons. The first is because anything is compost. So that plant that's dead and crusty is now in my compost. Great. Yay. It added a little teaspoon of something. Second reason is because the soil that the plant was growing in is still good. It may be super depleted because that plant has sucked up all the nutrients and it's dry and whatever, but it still has like soil consistency. So, and also more than likely it's super root bound in there. So there's tons of roots in there. And so after you rip out the plant, I usually dump out the soil into like a bin or something, and I just chop it up with my trowel and just mash it up. And 9 times out of 10, that root matter from that dead plant becomes really good compost and kind of just adds to the soil texture and soil consistency. So that's really good. And then the third reason is the pot itself. This pot, the size of this pot probably would have cost, you know, $4 or $5 at a store if I just wanted to buy it by itself with nothing in it. But for $1, I got the plant for the compost, the soil and roots for my seedling soil or whatever else I'm going to use it for, and the pot for future use. So highly recommend it whenever you see clearance, you know, sale plants that are just kind of on their last leg. Go and buy them up. Why not? So anyway, so back to seedlings. So what I do with this pot is I've got the compost and soil from under my chicken coop. If you watch the video, I think it's like basic chicken care or something, part 1, part 2, you'll see that I have a video in there about making compost, or letting your chickens make compost for you, pretty much. And that's just them scratching through vegetable matter, straw, bedding, plus their own poop, all scratched in together, and leave it for several months, and it comes out with this beautiful, lovely, composty soil goodness that is just applicable anywhere. You can throw it on anything. You could sneeze on it and you'd grow a human. It's amazing. Anyway, so what I did was I just filled this bucket half with that composty stuff for my chickens, and the other half just standard old garden sandy soil, whatever I just had laying around in some of my summer beds. And so I'm going to dig into here, and basically the same as putting a seedling in my beds. I'm just going to take the seedling. Now I've only got one in here. Oh, sorry, he's droopy. One in here. And I always snip off the little early leaves. So here I've got all this, the roots and everything else, and I'm just going to transplant him directly into the pot. Now, will this be his home forever and ever and ever? I don't think so. More than likely, I'm going to barter this little guy away for something else that I want. A friend of ours has some pheasant that he, like live pheasants, not just the pheasant meat, but live pheasants that he bought. He had to buy, I think he said he had to buy like 50 to get them delivered. And so he bought 50, but he doesn't want 50. And so we were talking the other night about possibly trading some of our older laying hens that are kind of past their prime a little bit, but still perfectly good, you know, just not amazing, not their best, for some of his pheasant chicks anyways. And I was like, yeah, that'd be fine, you know, we could totally do that. But also, I know he wants to improve his garden. So maybe, just maybe, we will barter some pheasant chicks for some tomatoes or some other seedlings that I have. And you never know, or it could be a plant trade. I don't know. There's all kinds of uses. But just putting them in a bigger pot gives you more time, and obviously it gets the plant, you know, more room and to grow. So I highly recommend saving these large pots. I've got these big ones. I've got these little small ones, and you know, either way, they'll be useful. Okay, so let's get back to seedlings in the beds. So I've got 2 of the Amish paste. These are Baker Creek heirloom seeds. That's the only ones I use. And these are, they're just amazing. They do a great job over there of producing good seeds for a good price. So again, so for these guys, for the next ones I'm planting, same thing. I just punched through the layers of mulch, rabbit manure, and cardboard. Just kind of stabbed right down into the soil under all that. And I'm going to plant my next ones. And I'll probably make it another Amish paste. That's pink 2. Pink 1. One of these. Hang on. That's brown cherry. There we go. Pink 2. This one is going to go in here as well. This is also an Amish paste, and they make really good tomato paste. I'm not going to lie. The name is true to form. The Amish paste tomato is kind of, it looks almost like aroma in shape and color, but the flavor and the smell is so much more rich and robust. The consistency is really good. So I'm just pinching off these little bottom leaves here. See, plant and roots, soil, into a nice deep hole, and then just bring the soil in and around. There's a big old glob of horse manure there. Fun. And just snug in the plant. All right, now I don't typically worry too much about spacing of my seedlings, especially when they're the same type. I like to just kind of push them all in together because then I know I'm harvesting all the same ones. The only ones I really like to space well apart are my cherry tomatoes because they tend to bush out quite a bit, at least the varieties that I grow. And when they do bush out, they can get a little overcrowded, and it's hard to see the ones all the way in the back or all the way in the middle of the tomato forest, as my husband calls it. So I do try to put those kind of on their own a little bit. But when it's a tomato that I know is very visible and doesn't really bush out as much, but is more a little just easier to trellis and to stake and to manage, then I'll put a little bit more, a few more seedlings in a closer area, because also it helps me to, keep track of them and know what I'm picking and where. Anyway, all right, so I'm just gonna put these extra little guys in a container for future bartering or trading or all that. I don't usually sell seedlings because typically the bartering is something I want more than money, and money is only useful if you have a use for it. And the way that we live our lives, me and my husband and our family, there are a lot of times we don't have use for money. We have a use for pigs or chickens or rabbits or alfalfa or something. And a lot of times we just don't really have much for use for cash. You can't eat it, that's for sure. Anyway, so that's that. So I'll have to label these so I know what they are, know what I'm going to be trading, and the rest is pretty much done. So there we've got three in pots ready for new homes, and 3 in the beds ready to begin their new life in the greenhouse. So guys, I hope this video was helpful, and I guess like and subscribe and all that. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.